When You Meet Someone in Deep Grief by Patricia McKiernan Runkle. Slip off your shoes and set them by the door. Enter barefoot this darkened chapel, hollowed by loss, hallowed by sorrow. Its gray stone walls and floor, you, congregation of one, are here to listen, not to sing. Kneel in the back pew, make no sound. Let the candles speak.
Welcome to this annual community service of loss and remembrance at the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Burlington. Each of you is very warmly welcomed here. Okay. Each of you is very warmly welcome here. And if this is your first time in this building, we extend an especially warm welcome. If you're joining us online via live stream, we are also very glad that you've chosen to be with us. The order of service, which many of you picked up front and back, also can be accessed in the gray hymnal just by scanning, the URL code in the front. And for those, if you go to the website uusociety.org, you just click live stream worship. We anticipate that this service will last about an hour, maybe a tad longer. It includes music, singing, stillness, poetry, and ritual. We invite you to lean into these parts that speak to your heart and let the rest flow on by. For those of you who are present in the sanctuary, if you brought a photo and you haven't yet left it on one of these two tables in front of me, a photo of a loved one who has died, you are welcome to bring it forward now or at any point in the service to this table, where we hope your loved one and your grief will gain a sense of dignity. For each of you, grief can take many forms. All are right, none are wrong. Some can be spoken here tonight, some will go unspoken, but not unnoticed. We are making a space for it. Come, let us gather together to remember our lost loved ones that we cherish with our love.
This reading is Watching My Friend Pretend Her Heart Isn't Breaking by Rosemary Watola Trommer. On Earth, just a teaspoon of neutron star would weigh 6 billion tons. 6 billion tons. The equivalent weight of how much railway it would take to get a third of the way to the sun. It's the collective weight of every animal on Earth, times 3. 6 billion tons sounds impossible until I consider how it is to swallow grief. Just a teaspoon, and one might as well have consumed a neutron star. How dense it is, how it carries inside it the memory of collapse. How difficult it is to move then. How impossible to believe that anything could lift that weight. There are many reasons to treat each other with great tenderness. One is the sheer miracle that we are here together on a planet surrounded by dying stars. One is that we cannot see what anyone else has swallowed.
"'Tis a Fearful Thing" by Yehuda Halevi. 'Tis a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, to hope, to dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools, this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me. Your laugh once lifted me. Your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing to love, a holy thing to love, what death has touched.
This is called How Easy It Is by Gregory Orr. How easy it is to give up hope. How easy to draw death over you like a black cloak. Cover your face, your eyes, stand there like a dead tree. I did that, claiming it was penance, claiming I was sorry I was alive after the beloved died. Who was I fooling? No one demanded I act that way, least of all the ones I loved who longed to live again and could not unless I uttered their names, unless I told their stories, unless I felt in my bones how much they loved the world.
Do you know that time in a service like this when there might be a prayer or something and the invitation is that you'll speak aloud, but you haven't had enough warning to know that it's coming, and you want to participate, but you're not quite sure and your mind doesn't catch up? Have you ever been? I have. So here I am about to pray. Here we are about to pray, and I want to give you the heads up that there is coming an invitation for you to speak the names of whom you are grieving or what you are grieving. So I invite you to listen or not to what I'm about to say, but then to know that I'm actually, truly, and really inviting you to speak. It might be a whisper, it might be really loud, it might be silent, but that we might, as a group, hear each other. So I am inviting you to let the spirit of meditation and prayer wash over you as we breathe in this moment, breathing into our bodies, however our bodies know at this time. One breath in to connect to self. Another breath in to connect to earth. a breath in to connect to all that is. Spirit of life and love, ground of all that is, fiercest love beyond human reckoning, be with us today. And not just the us who attends this service, but the us of all human communities. The us of all beings on this life-giving planet. At this time of year, when the veil between the living and the dead is more porous than usual, we say that whatever of lament and grief that is ours on this day, may we find the capacity to honor and respect it, to give it form through voice and body, to release it through intention and humble surrender, to name its damages that they hold no more and perhaps even less power over us. May we know it is possible to grieve without being wholly consumed. May we know it is possible to then let go of the depths of our grief without letting go of that which we have loved and lost. Not our memories, not what they taught us, not how they still live within us. Healing from grief does not require us to let go of our loved ones, but allows us to continue life among the living, keeping space for them, making space for what is yet to come. So it is now, friends, let us use our voices to name that for which we grieve, be it the name of a loved one or a lost opportunity, a rupture or estrangement, a visible loss or something not known to others but still very much true. Speak it in voices loud or whispers or silently, here in what we call a circle of care with these loving witnesses. I invite you, please speak. We know that this service is of and for the wide community, and yet this congregation takes just this moment to name members of First Unitarian Universalist Society who died in the past year. I add their names: Harriet Long, Ed Amadon, Debbie Berg, Jan Abbott, Sylvia Holden. I invite the choir to come and share their solace with us.
Still Things to Remember as the World Dies by Chris Taylor. You did not come here to pay bills and die, nor did you come to build the fortunes of those destroying the earth.
Imagine instead that you came to gather precious things fallen from the pockets of ancient ones as they fled the desert's march, each a reminder of something they pledged to never forget.
Things like how to call birds by name with your whistle, which news to tell the bees and which to share only with the moon, how to tell a parliament from a conspiracy, a colony from a convocation.
Things like nature has no race or nation, class or creed, except when humans seek to deceive. Division designed to sever you from kith and kin and Buddha mind.
Things like the antidote to oppression is not freedom, but belonging. The opposite of domination is communion. The medicine you need is always outside your door, and there's likely a wise woman 2 streets away to show you how to use it.
These things were left to help us remember how each world before has ended, and how each death became a door to new life, and how this world wants you to take you in her arms and make of you a lover, and have you listen to the land, talk to the stream, find meaning in the silence of trees, and wisdom on the singing breeze.
Listen a while to discover the right season for all the 10,000 things. The 99 names we use for our own divinity. How to keep the reins of power from the hands of the vain and the greedy. How to step into the flow of life and make of the earth a common treasury for all beings. How to map the stars, learn the lesson of each constellation, and still know there is more in heaven and earth than any of us were ever meant to know.
So fill your pockets as this world dies, knowing some of it will guide you to the next, and some will fall to the ground in time to be found by those who will bring the world back to life.
This poem, titled If I Must Die, was written by Palestinian academic and poet Rifat al-Arier, who lived and died in Gaza. He first posted it in November 2011. It became world famous after his death by Israeli airstrike last December 6th. If I Must Die, by Rifat al-Arier. If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad, who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite, you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
Lost by Reverend Linda Susan Ulrich. There was an audible gasp when they heard he was gone, a whoosh of air that sounded exactly like the bottom falling out of his mother's world, the winds of mortality brushing his parents' face, the last breath of a kind soul. All the years of struggle have settled into silence, unsought, unwished for, unfathomable. A child stands by the side of a lake, looks to the other shore, unperturbed by what he sees, not yet aware of the maw in the depths that will gnaw at his limbs, his mind, his spirit, unmarked by suffering, not yet bound by addiction. This day, he reflects only on the sunlit surface of the water and the blue, blue sky. Some sadness seeps into bones, some obstacles wrap themselves around ankles, some emptiness can't be overcome even by a loyal dog's kisses. But always the love remains. When words have been harsh, the love remains. When tears run out, the love remains. When a hole replaces the heart, the love remains. Even when all has been lost and all hope is gone, still the love remains.
There are so many kinds of grief. Grief we carry, what some might call personal grief or grief we think is ours alone. There is grief when someone dies, but there are many other kinds of grief, not just related to death. There is grief for the world aching and burning and perhaps even broken as it is. And there is grief for the unraveling we see and experience here in our community, how our efforts so far are not enough to stop the suffering of others or even ourselves. There is grief that goes unnoticed, unnamed, and sometimes even unknown, not conscious, not fully conscious, the pace and the demands of our lives not allowing us to make the necessary space to even give it a name. And still we gather and have an invitation for you, an invitation for the grief inside you. I invite you to come forward in a moment to this well of tears and make visible and palpable and tactile your grief to yourself and to your muscle memory, to those here, your witnesses who gather in this space together, and doing so by placing a stone, a pebble, a stone, a pebble, a weight into the well, letting it go, releasing, unshouldering a burden, one burden, two burdens, 5, knowing that as we do so collectively, eventually this well of tears will overflow and begin to weep, giving form and motion to the many kinds of grief that have visited us, that are visiting us. You may have more than one burden to give. Let it go. Come forward and place it in the well of tears. We're small enough today that you can come forward and we don't have to worry about going around, which often we do on Sunday mornings. You'll be kind and gentle to each other, but please come forward and you might hear the joyful noises of middle schoolers learning about sexuality, which seems really right. If we're going to talk about death, we should be talking about Eros too, right? Come forward, friends. We added those last stones for all the pain that goes unrecognized, all harm that has not yet stopped. And for those not with us today, but who would want us to honor their experience. Addiction is a cause of intense suffering and great grief. I would guess that most, if not every one of us, have encountered the ravages of addiction, either in our own lives or in the lives of people near and dear to us. We who love Burlington and who love Vermont are living at a time when so many of our fellow human creatures are struggling with addiction, struggling with the lack of access to adequate treatment. All of us touched by a deep malaise that drags some of us into chasing narcotic numbness. So far this year, calendar year, as of Monday, 37 people have died in Chittenden County due to drug overdose. Of those, 15 were here in Burlington. And so we ring a chime 37 times, once for each of these lives of inherent worth and dignity. Breathe with me, friends. The next set of readings is called Making It Through.
This poem is called Heavy by Mary Oliver. That time I thought I could not go any closer to grief without dying. I went closer, and I did not die. Surely God had his hand in this, as well as friends. Still I was bent, and my laughter, as the poet said, was nowhere to be found. Then, said my friend Daniel, brave among lions, it's not the weight that you carry, but how you carry it. Books, bricks, grief. It's all in the way you embrace it, balance it, and carry it, when you cannot and would not put it down. So I went practicing. Have you noticed? Have you heard the laughter that comes now and again out of my startled mouth? How I linger to admire, admire, and admire the things of this world that are kind and maybe also troubled. Roses in the wind, the sea geese on the steep waves, a love to which there is no reply.
This next piece is Adrift by Mark Nepo. Everything is beautiful, and I am so sad. This is how the heart makes a duet of wonder and grief. The light spraying through the lace of the fern is as delicate as the fibers of memory forming their web around the knot in my throat. The breeze makes the birds move from branch to branch, as the ache makes me look for those I've lost in the next room, in the next song, in the laugh of the next stranger. In the very center, under it all, what we have that no one can take away, and all that we have lost face each other. It is there that I am adrift, feeling punctured by a holiness that exists inside everything. I am so sad, and everything is so beautiful.
To share. This poem is Remember, You Are Water by Adrienne Marie Brown. Remember, you are water.
Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying. Flow.
P.S.
If there happens to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, or fast and slow, or small and large, add equal parts of these considerations.
That the broken heart can cover more territory, that perhaps love can only be as large as grief demands.
That grief is the growing up of the heart that bursts boundaries like an old skin or a finished life. That grief is gratitude.
That water seeks scale, that even your tears seek the recognition of community. That the heart is a front line, and the fight is to feel in a world of distraction.
That death might be the only freedom. That your grief is a worthwhile use of your time.
That your body will only feel as much as it is able to. That the ones you grieve may be grieving you.
That the sacred comes from limitations.
That you are excellent at loving.
Whether you are feeling it welling up inside of you, or it is a slight ember that needs tending, or whether you will participate as part of faking it till you make it. Our closing blessing is one we will co-create together by speaking words of gratitude into this shared space, into the circle of care we have embodied this evening, but which does not go away just because we depart for our homes. Here is your invitation to speak loudly or softly, but hopefully loudly, words of gratitude, appreciation, encouragement, devotion. Speak them now. Let us fill this room with that joy. Art. The lake. Justice seekers. Song. This body. Chocolate. It turns out you are excellent at gratitude. You are excellent at loving. It is time, friends, as we shift and move towards the end of this service. Betsy is going to extinguish the chalice, and I am going to hand this mic over to Liam because we're going to leave singing.
I'd like to invite everyone to rise in body or in spirit. And we're going to sing together, There Is a Love. There are two verses. The first verse we will sing all together in unison. The second verse, the choir will aid us in singing as a round. So feel free to sing straight from the beginning or to join the nearest choir member. It will all work. Thank you very much.